All right, guys. So let's go ahead. Let's look at number one. Number one is 12.6 divided by 3. Make sure 12.6 is the first number, so it goes inside. And we have a decimal, so we put it directly on top, and then we just divide normally. 3 goes into 1 0 times. 3 times 0 is 0. When we subtract, we get 1 left over, and now we bundle it up with the 2, making that 12. And 3 goes into 12 how many times? 4 times. That's right. 3 times 4 is 12. You got 0 left over, but we still got a 6 that we need to bring down and use. And thank you for showing me. 3 goes into 6 how many times? I like it when you show me with fingers. If you can't speak, good. 2 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Is there any remainder, or sorry, anything left over? No. Right, so we're good. 4.2 is your final answer. Okay, let's get to number 2. We have a decimal here, so we got to put it directly on top. This is a whole number, so we're good. Let's divide normally. 14 goes into 2 0 times, so we bundle it with the 0, okay? 14 times 0 is 0. When you subtract, you bring down the 0. And 14 goes into 20 1 time. I love that Gio, he's getting a shout out in my video. He keeps showing me that he knows it because he's showing me with his fingers which number, how many times it goes in. Feel free to do the same. I really like that a lot. Gio, remind me at the end to give you some. 14 times 1 is 14. When you subtract, you get 6 left over. You bring down the 5. 14 goes into 65. Now, I don't know my 14s that well, but I know my 15s. I know 15 times 5 is 75. I think it's gonna be 14 times 5. And I might be wrong. Looks like I'm wrong here. So let's try 14 times 4. And that's 56. So it goes in there 4 times. And you have 9 left over. Then you bring down the 2. And I know 14 times 5 was 70. So 14 times 6 is going to be 84 because I add 14 to that. So it's going to be 6 times. And then I have 8 left over. Bring down the 4. And that tells you right there it's going to be 6 again. And 84 minus 84 is 0. I have no numbers left over, so I'm good to go. 14.66 is your answer. All right, doing good so far? We good? Yeah, all right. Next, we have a decimal on the outside. So we need to move this to the right to make it a whole number. We only move it once to make it a whole number. But, if we had multiple numbers here, we'd have to move it multiple times. Now, however many times you move it on the outside, you have to move it the same amount of times on the inside. I moved it once to the right on the outside, so I got to move it once to the right on the inside. And when I do that, I put my decimal here, and then you want to put a decimal directly on top. Always. You want to put that decimal directly on top. So give yourself some room. And now we divide normally. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8. You got no remainder. This one is like, I think in my opinion, the easiest problem or the simplest problem on the math test. So yeah, you're done with that. It goes in there 4 times. All right, I don't know why I erased that since I didn't need more room. Number 4, we have another decimal here. So we got to move this decimal to the right, making this 24. And whatever we do on the outside, we have to do on the inside. So we moved it once on the outside. How many times are we moving it on the inside? Once. I love it. I love that we're showing me with fingers. That's great. We put a decimal here, and then we put one directly on top. And now we divide normally. Now this one's kind of a beast because we see that 24 doesn't go into 1. So it goes in there 0 times. Goes in 15 0 times. So we have to figure out, okay, how many times is 24 going to 156? So you can either round it down to 20 or round it up to 25 if you know your 25. I told you yesterday, I know my 25s because I know my quarters. I know 4 quarters equal $1, so 4 times 25 is 100. 6 quarters equal $1.50, so 25 times 6 would be 150. I'm going to try 24 times 6 as well, and I see most of you tell me, yeah, 6. So let's see, 24 times 6. 6 times 4 is 24, carry the 2. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. And yeah, that's as close as I can get to 156 without going over. John, you got me in the camera? Great. So it goes in there 6 times, and I subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2, 5 minus 4 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. I have 12 remainder. Now, do I stop there? Do we have remainders in decimals? Yes or no? No. No way, Jose. Sorry, Jose. Okay, but get a shout out too. Okay, so what do we got to do? With this decimal, we have an infinite amount of Zeros. Thank you, Cindy, showing me. We got an infinite amount of zeros. So we take one of those zeros that was invisible, we kind of take it out of our pocket, throw it in, say, okay, let's bring it down. Now we have 120. And I know 24 times 6 was 144, so I'm going to try 24 times 5. And that's probably going to be even, because remember, when you multiply something by 5, it ends in a 5 or a 0. That's right. 4 times 5 is 20. Turn it to 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So it does go into 5 evenly, and we got nothing left over. 0.65 is your answer. Cindy had a great question yesterday. She said, should I put a 0 in front of the decimal and make it 0.65? That's how it's usually seen. I don't think the state test will mark it wrong, but you might as well do it. I mean, that's how I see it, is 0.65, and I don't know for sure about the state test, so you should just put the 0. Let them know, hey, this is clearly a decimal, 0.65. I also don't know how your high school teachers might like that, or your middle school, so might as well just keep it like that. And if you have any questions, write it down, save it till the end of the video, okay? Because I want to keep this short so you guys aren't watching this video for 30 minutes. All right. Number 5. We have a whole number here. We don't have to move the decimal at all, but we do have a decimal here, which means you have to put it on top. And this is another one that's not too difficult. It looks difficult, but it's not. 15 goes into 7 0 times, so we bundle it with the 5. You guys are good if I don't put the 15 times 0 and subtract, right? We know that we need to, we know that we need to have the 5 with it. So 15 goes into 75. Well, I know my 15s. I know 15 times 2 is 30, which means 15 times 4 is double that, which 15 times 4 is 60. And yeah, I think it's going to be 5 times. 15 times 5 is 75. And yep, turns out to be that. Okay? And that's it. 15 goes into 7.5, 0.5 times. You have nothing left over. Okay? That's another one that's really simple. I think 5 and 3 are probably the simplest ones. Okay? And if you have any questions on that, if I'm going too fast, ask at the end. Number 6, we have a decimal here, so we got to put it on top. This is whole, so we're good. 4 goes into 2, 0 times. Right? 4 times 0 is 0. To bring down this 0 here. 4 goes into 20 5 times. We should know that with our multiplication facts. You will be allowed to use your multiplication table, so if you need that, please use it. 4 times 5 is 20. And we have nothing left over. Are we good? Are we done? No, unfortunately not, because we still have a 2 here that we need to take care of. So we bring that 2 down. And now, don't make this mistake. Don't say, oh, okay, let me get a 0. No, you have to say, first, how many times does 4 go into 2? And it goes in there 0 times. So you have to put a 0 above that. You have to, or you're going to get it wrong. Okay? It goes in there 0 times, and now we bring in a 0. We say, okay, 4 times 2 is, or 4 times 0 is 0. And we subtract the 2 left over, and now we bring in this 0 that we get out of our infinity pocket. Okay? We say, okay, 4 goes into 20 5 times. And 4 times 5 is 20. Now we have nothing left over. So if you ever have something left over with decimals, you have to keep solving. Okay? All right, let's do number 7. Number 7, we do have a decimal here, so we need to move it once to the right, which means we move this one once to the right and put a decimal directly on top. And now we divide normally. 2 goes into 2 how many times? 1. This one's a great one. I like this one a lot. 2 times 1 is 2. 0 left over, but you got to bring down that 4. 2 goes into 4 how many times? 2. 2 times 2 is 4. You got 0 left over, but you bring down the 5. And 2 goes into 5 2 times. You got 2 times 2 is 4. You got 1 left over. And now we have to bring down a 0. Okay, we got to take out one of these zeros that are invisible and use it. And we find 2 goes into 10 5 times. And there's nothing left over, and we're good. Your answer is 12.25. Okay. All right, number 8. Looks like we're not going to use decimals, but we'll find out as we continue. We are going to need to use decimals. So 16 goes into 6 0 times. Oh wait, not 0. 6 minus 0 is 6. And now we bring down the 0. So 16 goes into 60. I know my 15s. I know 15 times 4 is 60. I'm going to try 16 times 3 because 16 is a little bit bigger than 15. And I get 48. I'm going to double check. I'm sure that's it, but I'm going to double check and do 16 times 4. just to make sure if it does go over, that I know, and it does. So it can't be 4, it has to be 3 times. Okay, you guys see how I did that? I just double checked. I said, well, let me go. I'm not sure. Let me try 16 times 4. And yeah, that is over 60. So I can't do times 4. I have to do times 3. And that gets me 48, which means I get 12 left over. And now I need to put in my decimal because I need to get a 0. Okay? You have to, if you're getting one of those infinite zeros that I've talked about, you have to put a decimal in there. Okay? Because otherwise it would change it to 600. It's not 600, it's 60. So now I grab one of my zeros and I got 120. And I know it's going to be more than 4. Let's try, now I know 15 times, okay, somebody else tell me, let's just try it. 16 times 7 from people who are showing me. And 16 times 7 is 112. Yep, that's as close as I can get. And that gives me 8 left over. I get another 0. I bring it down. And that's going to be what, 16 times 5? Yeah. 16 times 5 is 80 even. You got nothing left over. Okay, I didn't do that here because I ran out of space, but you could check it for yourself. So your answer is 3.75. Okay? And if you need me to go over that one or any of the other ones again, ask me at the end. All right, we're almost done. Number 9 says that Jim has a wire that's 3.3 meters long. He cuts it into 2 equal pieces. Ask yourself, what's being divided? The 2 equal pieces or the wire? And we know it's the wire, right? The wire is being split into 2 equal pieces, so 3.3 divided by 2. 3.3 represents the wire. This is how many pieces it's getting split into, okay? So we put a decimal on top. 2 goes into 3 one time. 3 minus 2 is 1. Bring down the 3. 2 goes into 13 6 times. 2 times 6 is 12. Bring down the 1. Now I bring down a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. You got nothing left over. 1.65. Not a difficult word problem. All right, and number 10 says Dwight's family lives 966 kilometers from the beach, and each of the 5 adults drove the van in equal distance, meaning they're dividing that distance into 5 equal parts. Okay, that's division. So we're dividing the distance, which is 966, into 5 equal parts. 5 goes into 9 one time. You got 4 left over. Bring down to 6. 5 goes into 46 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. You got 1 left over. Bring down to 6. 5 goes into 16 3 times. 5 times 3 is 15. You got 1 left over. Put in a decimal. Add a 0. And 5 goes into 10 2 times. 5 times 2 is 10. You got nothing left over. Okay, your answer is 193.2. John, real quick, just show this board a little bit. Okay, did you see it? All right, thank you. Hit stop.